It is Chicago, 1893.
Right.
You have come here for the World's Fair, where they will be showcasing the most innovative technologies on Earth. You have your suitcase in one hand and you are buzzing with excitement. You make your way towards a hotel in front of you. The receptionist, he smiles at you gently. Hi. He looks you up and down.
Oh.
He takes your details and he points you to your room upstairs. You take a staircase. Curiously, it ends at a wall. You take another set of stairs. They climb, but they go nowhere. You take a right, then a left, then you walk down a long, winding corridor. At the end, there is an empty room, except for a single trapdoor set into the floor. You open it, and as you do, you feel a pair of hands shove you forward. You fall in, and the door slams shut above you. You are trapped in a windowless room, and absolutely nobody is coming to help you.
Bloody hell.
Adam, you can check in at any time, but you can never leave.
You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave.
Welcome to The Compendium, an assembly of fascinating things, a weekly variety podcast that gives you just enough information to stand your ground at any social gathering.
We explore stories from the darker corners of true crime, the hidden gems of history, and the jaw-dropping deeds of extraordinary people.
I'm, of course, Kyle Risi, your ringmaster for this week's episode.
And I'm Adam Cox, the invisible animal coordinator for this week.
Invisible animal coordinator?
Yeah, we've got a lot of invisible animals that need looking after.
Do we?
And I'm rushed off my feet, Kyle.
Are they ghost animals by any chance? Because that might be quite fitting for today's episode.
Well, actually, they were made up, but...
Imaginary animals.
I was trying to find some work.
we have so many invisible animals. I think you should employ me.
Pretty much, yeah.
Guys, if you are new to the show and you want to support us, then the absolute best way to support the show and enjoy exclusive perks is, of course, to join us over at Patreon, because signing up is free and you will get access to next week's episode a whole 7 days before anyone else.
Yeah. And for as little as $5 a month, you can become a fellow freak of the show, which will unlock our entire back catalogue, which includes all of our classic episodes.
Yes, and to be honest, the real reason to sign up is because our certified freaks and our top tier members get our exclusive compendium keychain. And I've just actually sent out the latest batch. There they are all over there. You see them?
Oh, there they are.
And it means that very soon we'll be there dangling.
By all your crotches.
So rank.
Yeah, literally, by the time you're hearing this podcast go out, we'll be like dangling and clinking on your crotch.
I did have a member send me a message the other day asking where her crotch dangler was. It's like, I've been a member now for like 3 months. Where the fuck's my crotch dangler? I'm like, Jesus.
I just got rid of my last one. And lastly, guys, please follow us on your favorite podcast app and leave us a review, because your support helps others find us and keeps these amazing stories coming.
Adam, that is enough of the housekeeping, because today on The Compendium, we're diving into an assembly of a mind that turned design into deception and architecture into a machine for murder.
Architecture? Murder? I am intrigued, Kyle.
Do you have any idea what we're talking about today?
Because
you never really look over my shoulder anymore when I'm typing away.
I was like, you'll tell me eventually when I'm like sitting here. No, I've got no idea. I am intrigued though. What is it?
Adam, I want you to picture it.
Okay.
It is Chicago, 1893.
Right.
The city is electric. You have come here for the World's Fair, the Columbia Exposition, where they will be showcasing the most innovative technologies on Earth. Electricity, moving walkways. Literally, the future is laid out in front of you.
Okay.
As you step off your streetcar onto a bustling street on the corner of South Wallace Avenue and West 63rd Street, You have your suitcase in one hand and you are buzzing with excitement. You make your way towards a hotel in front of you. It is big, it is solid, it's 3 stories tall and almost an entire block long.
I mean, a solid hotel, I would think so. I'm not staying in a tent.
No, you're not. This is the respectable establishment where you'll be staying, basically. The receptionists, they are friendly, they're polite, accommodating even, which is what you'll expect from a hotel. I don't know why I put that line in, that's weird. He smiles at you gently, he looks you up and down.
Oh.
He takes your details and he points you to your room upstairs.
Right.
So far, so good, right?
Yeah.
On the ground floor, everything feels very normal. People are shopping in the pharmacy. At the jewelry store, people are looking in amazement at the selection of fine watches that are on display. Everything is charming, reassuring even. The hotel feels like you have made the right choice. But then you start heading to your room. You take a staircase. Curiously, it ends at a wall. Baffled, you then turn back. And then you take another set of stairs. They climb, but they go nowhere. You take a right, then a left, then you walk down a long, winding corridor. The angles feel off and the carpets are all disorientating. You try a door, and it's a brick wall. You try another door, and it's locked. You are now lost, Adam.
I feel like I'm in like some kind of fun fair.
At the end of the corridor, there is another door with an empty room, except for a single trapdoor set into the floor. Out of curiosity, you open it, and as you do, at that moment, you feel a pair of hands shove you forward, you fall in, and the door slams shut above you. You are trapped in a windowless room that is also soundproof, so nobody can hear you scream, and absolutely nobody is coming to help you.
Bloody hell.
Adam, as panic sets in, you start to notice something in the wall. A small, dark hole, perhaps, a makeshift peephole. But it's too dark to make out what's behind there. And as the minutes turn into hours, your fear turns into the terrifying realization that you might never leave this room. But then you swear you see a flash of movement coming from behind that peephole. Is someone watching you? Adam, as the Eagle song Hotel California goes, you can check in at any time, but you can never leave. Today, on the compendium, I'm going to tell you the true story of H.H. Holmes and his murder castle.
Oh. I mean, I know of H.H. Holmes. He came up when we did the Jack the Ripper episode, right?
He did, yeah. He was suspected as being a potential person who was committing all these crimes.
Yeah, one of the suspects. But do you know what? I don't think I know too much about him. I didn't realize there was like a hotel.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Adam, this story is freaking wild. This is the story of one of America's first serial killers, and his crimes have just become something of legend on a par with Jack the Ripper. Like, his story has come to inspire pop culture ever since his crimes came to light. He even served as the inspiration behind season 5 of American Horror Story Hotel.
Do you know what? I was just thinking this feels like a season of American Horror Story when it was good. Because that hotel was this kind of weird place where the dead couldn't cross over and all this sort of creepiness. And they had a load of serial killers. And because I was like, who builds a hotel which goes to a room which then you get killed in? This guy.
This guy, yes. So Adam, today on the compendium, we will trace Holmes's rise to becoming one of America's first serial killers. We will look at how he orchestrated his gruesome crimes inside this purpose-built murder castle, and how he used his charm and manipulation to draw his victims in, and finally, how he was brought down. Adam, this is the story of H.H. Holmes.
I'm excited for this one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad. Shall we start at the top, though?
Okay, so he was born a little boy.
Yeah.
He had these parents, which were kind of normal.
No. Adam, H.H. Holmes wasn't born H.H. Holmes.
Oh.
He starts his life as Herman Webster Mudgett.
Yeah, that doesn't sound threatening.
No, it doesn't. He was born on May the 16th, 1861 in New Hampshire. His parents were Levi Horton Mudgett, and his mother was Theodate Page Price.
Is that a name?
Not a name that we recognize, but this is her name, Theodate.
Wow.
There are 4 kids in total. He has an older sister, Ellen, 2 brothers, Arthur and Henry. Perfectly ordinary names. And then there's, of course, Herman, which feels like it doesn't quite fit, right? They are a farming family, and they are, of course, devout Methodists, which usually means a strict household with clear rules and not a lot of emotional room to breathe, if you know what I mean, right? We've all seen a lot of these families. Ed Gein came from a very similar family as well. So we can get that sense of what it was like. And Levi doesn't really help. By most accounts, he is extremely violent towards Theodate and also to the kids. But he's also a really heavy drinker. So it isn't just a hard childhood, it's also an unpredictable one, which makes it easy for little Herman to fall into this tidy story here, right? He's from a bad upbringing. It's usually the foundation in which monsters are born. But in spite of this, Herman does really well at school. He's very clever, he gets good grades, and by most accounts, he's really well behaved, which unfortunately makes him the perfect target for bullies. A few of the boys in his class, they get into this habit of really making his life hell. And a defining moment of this is when they discover that Herman has a phobia of doctors.
Oh, I guess what? He was just scared to go to the doctor,
Scared
like
of having his
injections.
prostate checked. Injections,
His
yeah.
prostate. He's a kid, Kat.
Well, I'm an adult now I'm terrified of that. I know it's coming up.
Oh, wait a second. It is,
What?
isn't it?
It is, yeah. Have you had your letter yet?
No, have you?
Not yet. Every time my phone goes off and it's the surgery, I'm like, oh, here it is. This is it.
They're going to call you in.
There's a certain age, freaks, in a man's life here in the UK where you get summoned to have your prostate checked. And actually, do you know what? It's not what you think either. Like, I was speaking to some of the blokes at work, and like, you think, okay, you're going to walk into the doctor's office, you're going to drop your pants, you're going to lean over the table, spread your legs, right? Real manly stuff, right? I can handle that. It's not. Basically, you have to... They make you lay on a bed on your side in the fetal position.
Yeah.
And then they lube up with a finger and they stick your finger in your bum. So you're in a very vulnerable position as it is. It's not like you are spread eagled with your bending over a desk. So I don't know how I'm going to handle it. I might not even go.
Come on. It's time.
It's time. God damn it.
What are we talking about again?
Herman Munster are having a phobia of the doctor.
Oh, yeah,
but
that's
for
right.
injection reasons, not prostate reasons.
That's what I would have thought.
So basically what they're going to do is they're going to use this to try and scare him.
What, book him an appointment?
With the prostate guys. No, apparently they convince him to come along with them while they break into the local doctor's office. And then once they're in, they actually force him to stand face to face with a human skeleton, one of those kind of skeletons that are on display. Herman, of course, he freaks out, but only at first, because later he says that in this moment, it actually helps him overcome that fear and that he was instead really fascinated by it in hindsight. And so after that, he starts to become really obsessed with this concept of death, which leads him to start dissecting animals as a hobby.
And so how old is he at this point?
So he's like 11, 12 maybe. And Adam, he does horrific things. He basically traps his neighbor's cat, and while it's still alive, he carries out an experimental surgery on it.
That's really cruel.
While it's still alive?
And so he did all this because these boys...
Well, I think the boys gave him like an awakening, right?
Okay, there's being fascinated by it, and then there's, this. Yeah.
But also, that kind of really backfires on the bullies, though, because they use this to try and get at him. And he's like, fuck you, suckers. I really like this.
Yeah, that's true.
So he graduates school at 16, and he takes up a position as a teacher in New Hampshire. This is actually where he meets Clara Lovering.
Love her ring?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Love her ring. Oh, I love her ring. They get married soon after, and in 1880, they have a son together who they name Robert Lovering Mudgett. At this point, he's 18 years old, so he's still quite young. He's married and also he's teaching, which, it's weird for me to think of an 18-year-old teacher.
Yeah, considering most 18-year-olds are...
Taking drugs and...
I didn't mean that, but just, I don't know, to have that kind of presence to teach kids.
It is weird, isn't it? I guess it's just a different time.
Yeah, when it's more than just summer camp. It's
Yeah.
actual school.
So he's newly married, and soon after this, he decides that he is going to enroll in the University of Vermont, where he's going to do a one-year medical program that focuses on anatomy. And even at university, he is a target for bullies, which is kind of shit. You'd think that people would have grown out of that behavior by the time they go to university. So it's not clear if it's a result of the bullying or whether or not it's just because it's a one-year program. But after 1 year, he decides to leave and he doesn't go back to that particular course. And so a couple of years after that, he decides that he's going to enroll in the University of Michigan to study medicine and surgery. While he's there, his enthusiasm for dissecting bodies takes a bit of a dark turn because it stops being purely about the academic side of things and starts to become something of an entrepreneurial pursuit. Because he starts stealing the cadavers from the lab, deliberately disfigure them beyond recognition, like faces destroyed, and then he'll take out life insurance policies on the bodies, list them under fake names like John Smith or whoever, and then claim that they had died in some kind of horrific accident, and then he'll collect the insurance payout on them.
That's, yeah, that's quite, well, it feels like back then it was so easy to kind of...
Just get away with murder.
Yeah, murder, fraud, and stuff like that. Obviously, he gets caught, I'm guessing, at some point because we know we're talking about him. But yeah, so I'm trying to work out, is this just someone that's got a bit misguided, took the wrong sort of path in life? But it feels like he's not like maybe the best person anyway.
Yeah, and it's easy to kind of hold this against him, but in his defense, everyone is doing this.
Oh, okay.
In fact, they would actually work together. One of his classmates would take out the policy in person, pretending to be John Smith himself, and then Herman would pretend to discover the body later on, and he'd report it, etc. And so, of course, once they get the payout, they would then share it, which is a hell of an escalation, especially when you're still a student, like to go from dissecting bodies to then robbing them and then doing insurance fraud as a student.
And he hasn't even graduated yet.
No, he hasn't. Plus, also, I don't really understand how he's getting away with it. But as you said, it's probably easier for people to get away with stuff like this back in the 1800s. I guess it beats being a stripper, right?
That's true. Having an OnlyFans, you just do some fraud.
But also the way that he was able to get away with this is because autopsies weren't really routine for poor people. Insurers largely relied on eyewitnesses to kind of say, yeah, that is kind of John Smith, basically. But also, universities were reluctant to also report when these lab bodies went missing because, Adam, believe it or not, the universities most of the time had stolen the bodies from the local cemetery to begin with. And so they're not exactly going to say, yeah, we stole these bodies from the cemetery and we would like to report them missing.
So why would they steal them in the first place? Because they needed bodies for the students to dissect.
Absolutely, yeah, because there's a massive shortage of people donating their bodies to science, and so they would just go and steal them.
That's hilarious. What professors are out there stealing bodies?
I don't think it's the professors that are doing it, though. I think it's people would go off and grave rob, and then they would go to the universities and sell them the bodies, and they were happy to take the bodies, basically.
Right, and then they're losing all these bodies because who's stealing our bodies?
Yeah, exactly.
That is bizarre.
So eventually Herman graduates medical school in 1884. He is essentially now a doctor with a taste for stealing bodies and a bit of insurance fraud. His marriage to Clara at this point starts to fall apart, which is strange because he seems like such a nice guy. And he doesn't really stick around. He decides to abandon the family. He moves to New York, kind of North New York, near the Canadian border, where he spends a couple of years working in various pharmacies and sales jobs. However, while he is there, a young boy goes missing, and an eyewitness says they last saw him with Herman. And so when he is questioned about this, he doesn't deny knowing the boy, only that he knows that the boy told him that he went back to Massachusetts, back to his hometown. And so bizarrely, the cops accept this explanation. They go off, they do a few more inquiries. And while that's happening, surprise, surprise, Herman skips town. So it looks suspicious, doesn't it?
So is he guilty then?
Let's find out. Because he then moves to Philadelphia, where he gets another job in a pharmacy. While he's in town, there is news of a young boy who has just suddenly dropped dead after taking some medication. It's a massive story in the town. When the cops go to investigate, they manage to trace the medicine that this boy apparently had taken before he had collapsed back to Herman's drugstore.
Right.
Of course, when they go and question Herman about it, he obviously denies having any responsibility whatsoever. But then, Adam, just like magic, Herman immediately leaves town.
Okay, so there's twice now that's happened.
Yes, exactly. So it seems sus, right? Now, we don't know if he does have anything to do with what happened to these boys, but in a move that certainly doesn't help his defense, Herman Mudgett decides that he is going to change his name to Henry Howard Holmes, or H.H. Holmes.
Well, that seems like he probably did have something to do with it.
It does, doesn't it? It seems very suspicious. But also, weirdly, Henry is his brother's name. Is that weird? Why, if you were going to change your identity, why would you pick your younger brother's name?
Easier to remember.
Yeah. Thank you. I needed that. Yeah, that clears it up for me. So he makes a beeline for the windy city of Chicago. He arrives in Chicago in August of 1886, and he manages to find a job in a drugstore owned by a woman called Elizabeth Holton. Now, it's situated on the northwest corner of South Wallace Avenue and West 63rd Street. Now, while he's there, he is super hardworking. Elizabeth comes to really trust and rely on him. And also they become really close friends. Now, according to the legend, Adam, when Elizabeth's husband dies, she is left in a hell of a lot of debt. And to help her out, Holmes offers to buy the drugstore from her. And after the deeds are handed over, Elizabeth is apparently never seen or heard of ever again.
Oh, really?
Mm.
So he's doing quite well for himself if he can just buy this business, I guess, with the debt, I'm assuming.
Is a doctor, maybe pharmacists pay quite well? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, but then why does she disappear? That's the question, right?
Yeah, well, whenever regular customers ask where she is, he tells them that she's moved to California to be close to relatives. But real talk here, because census records show that Elizabeth Holton was just fine. In fact, she was living nearby in Eaglewood with her husband until her death in 1930, long after Holmes was long gone anyway. So it's probably a bit more about the kind of legend and the mysteries that kind of emerge out of this story. This is why it's quite difficult to kind of piece the facts of the story together, because it's become such a legend. Do you know what I mean?
I see. So people are, I don't know, maybe fantasizing some of the facts or...
Yes. And it could be that maybe that's what he was telling her. Like, she's gone to be close to family. Maybe she did go to California for a bit, but then come back and settled in Eaglewood. But still, you can't ignore how Holmes is already kind of rehearsing this persona, this kind of sinister character wearing this mask of a respectable businessman. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, Holmes is still married to Clara Lovering, right? But in 1887, he meets a woman called Martha Belknap, and very soon they get married. So he's been a bit of a bigamist here, because technically now he's married to both of them.
Ah, yeah.
So between 1887 and 1892, business at the drugstore is really flourishing. And Holmes decides that he is actually going to purchase the empty lot across the street. And his intention is to build a commercial property with a bunch of different businesses and apartments, including a hotel eventually. And it's because the city is booming economically at the time. The news of the World Fair coming to Chicago in 1893 had just hit, and a lot of people kind of moving into the city to take advantage of kind of the opportunities that would be coming their way.
And am I right in saying that this is one of those fairs that goes around the world?
Yeah, so when we were in Paris, remember they had that big old massive greenhouse sort of thing?
Mm.
That was built for, I don't know, maybe the 1904 World Fair, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
The Eiffel Tower famously was built for that purpose as well, to showcase kind of new feats in engineering.
Yeah, that's right. I think I've heard, it's in London, it's all over sort of thing. It's a really big deal. I don't know if they still do that.
I think they do, actually. I think very recently, Dubai hosted it. We might need to check that out at some point.
It feels like back then there was like really state-of-the-art, transformative, like energy, electricity, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Now I imagine it's just, I don't know, more fancy iPhones.
Yeah, it's just not really on our radar anymore. And so, like I said, this is an opportunity to capitalize on that, or at least that's how it's presented in terms of Holmes, why he's wanting to build this new commercial building. And the plot is sizable. It's an entire block wide. It stretches 162 feet long and 50 feet wide. It would eventually have 3 stories plus a basement with shops lining the ground floor, which he would rent out to local business owners. He would have rented apartments and personal offices on the middle floor, and the 3rd floor would serve as a hotel for actual paying guests, especially when the World Fair comes to town. But even before his crimes come to light, the building evokes enough unease that locals dub the property the castle. And it's because it's on a scale that is not really been seen in the city before. It's this maze-like labyrinth of rooms and corridors. It has over 60 rooms, so that's quite large. It also has 51 oddly shaped doorways that open up into brick walls, clearly designed to either confuse or disorientate anyone that is kind of trying to navigate the place. Hallways are often really narrow or really winding. Sometimes you'll have a really long corridor that has just got no doors lining it, and at the very end will just be one single door. Some span like 50 meters in length, only to lead to like a single door at the very end. It features blind staircases that randomly disappear behind a wall or cause you to kind of turn back after like you've reached the very top and you're like, I've come all this way for nothing. There's nothing here. There's also hidden passageways like fitted behind bookshelves. Just imagine staying there as a guest, how freaked out you would be as well. You'd be like, excuse me, sir, I finally got to my room and it's just a brick wall. And they're like, yeah, no refunds.
There isn't a room. It's just a corridor. I mean, this doesn't feel like it's very well thought out. So who designed this place?
It's basically him, really. But during construction, he is constantly cycling through different construction workers. And then, like, after a couple of weeks or a couple of months, once they've done their little bit, he'll sack them using the excuse that they're incompetent. But basically, this means that no single team ever sees the full layout of the building.
So it's not like he's done this purposefully, like from the blueprints, that we're going to have all these weird corridors and stuff like that. It's because there's a bit of a mishmash going along?
I think so, yeah. I don't know if he has got a clear idea. Maybe he does have some plans. He's quite a smart guy, but he's certainly keeping those as secrets. And so these construction workers that are working on this building, they only ever really know the little bit that they have built in isolation. Do you know what I mean? They don't really understand the context of it or where it's coming from. They're just like, I need you to finish this room. It's here. Let me show you how to get there. Build it.
Right.
Do you love rom-coms? Do you wish you could talk about Christmas movies year-round? Then we have the perfect podcast for you, Hallmarkies Podcast. Throughout the year, we cover all things romance, holiday, and Hallmark, including recaps of every Hallmark show, like When Calls the Heart and The Way Home. You can also get loads of bonus content covering shows like Bridgerton, Sweet Magnolias, and Just Like That. We are an all-female group of friends who are passionate for these shows and movies and give our honest opinions as well as gush over what we love so much. But that's not all. Every Monday, there are interviews with all your favorite actors, writers, directors, and more. Check out Hallmarkies Podcast on all your podcast providers and on YouTube. That's Hallmarkies Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
However, Holmes does keep a few contractors on. These are the ones who basically ask the fewest questions and blindly do whatever he instructs them to do. In particular, this includes a carpenter he meets in 1889 called Benjamin Pitzel. Now, Pitzel is a dodgy character and he knows not to meddle. And as a result, he becomes this kind of right-hand man to Holmes and his schemes that he runs.
So does that mean then that Holmes was building this with kind of a murder room or whatever in mind?
I think when we understand some of the features of the hotel and we uncover some of his crimes, I think it'll become very apparent that the answer to that question is yes.
So I'm guessing like there's some carpenters here. They're like, why do you want like a chainsaw to like swing down from the ceiling all of a sudden? It's like, no reason.
Yeah, exactly. So once the hotel is finally finished, he rents out a lot of the businesses on the ground floor. He starts renting out apartments on the middle floor and he starts employing some staff. And mysteriously, a lot of people in the area start to disappear. And not to point any fingers at Holmes, but most of those people are his employees. And amazingly, one of the conditions for working for Holmes or renting a shop or even staying at the hotel as a guest is that you needed to sign a life insurance policy, which Holmes would pay for himself and name himself as a beneficiary.
Hang on, that sounds well dodgy.
It does. You're not signing that, are you? But they did. And the reason why they did is because he would frame this as a very generous employee benefit.
So it doesn't matter if you're renting a shop or whatever, or you're working in the hotel. And if you're a paying guest, that one is really weird. The other two, I could see, okay, this is some kind of nice perk of, working in this building. But a guest, though?
Let me explain. So because the welfare was coming to the city, there is a massive boom in construction. Plus, there's a huge increase in streetcars all over Chicago, which means that the city is being ravaged by accidents. So people, when they get into these accidents, they are genuinely left unable to support their families. So he uses this pretense of being a caring boss, where if the worst should happen, he would get the payout and then expedite the money onto your families in order to help you in the event that you were in a tragic accident.
I see. And this is the time before they probably had like traffic lights, things like that.
Yes.
And people were getting run down left, right, and center.
That's right. And so no one questions this until, of course, the vanishings start piling up. And he liked to do a number of different things, including locking them in airtight bedrooms and then gassing them through kind of the lighting gas lines, because everything was gas at the time. So he'd rig them so that he would then just turn on a valve and then it'd just be like the gas would build up and they would just end up suffocating.
Oh, so we're getting straight into the killing.
Yes.
That was a bit of a lead up. There's a mystery. They go missing and whatever.
Oh, yeah. I've said twice they go missing. Now time to get to the killing.
Like, how many were going missing?
A lot.
Damn.
We'll get to that in the end. He also had a soundproof bank vault built near his office on the second floor, where he would basically lure employees in under the pretense of maybe retrieving some kind of documents. He would then lock them in, and he would just leave them in there until they ran out of air. There's also a secret room that he had with no windows. It was only accessible via a trapdoor in the ceiling. He would basically drop you in there, and then he would watch you through a peephole until they basically died of thirst or hunger, or if he got fed up with their pleas, he'd then just finish them off with gas.
Wow, so he has created multiple torture rooms.
Yeah. He even rigs up the upper floors with a custom motion detector kind of alarm system. And it's basically silent for a start. So it's all rigged up into his personal apartments. He can use this to remotely monitor victims' movements. So this is how he would know if someone that he had trapped managed to stumble out of one of the gas rooms or climbed out through one of the trapdoors or whatever, and were then now roaming through the hotel. This would signal to him, and then he can come and get them.
I see. So is it like a wire or something then? And so
yeah.
it's connected to a door. So then basically, or whatever it is, they manage to get out. It just rings a little bell in his room. I see. It's like before CCTV.
Yes.
It's the best that they could do.
Once his victims are dead, of course, he needed to dispose of their bodies. And he can't just lug them through the hotel. Instead, he uses a series of secret metal chutes that he can dump the bodies directly into the basement.
Right.
Down there, he's completely set up to basically dissect them. He will remove their flesh. He'll remove their organs. He'll basically turn you into a skeleton, one of those medical model skeletons that you normally see on display in hospitals, which he then systematically sells to medical schools.
Ah, so that's why he's doing this, because he's still loving to dissect.
Basically, he's found a way to make money from his passion.
Yeah. I mean,
which is important.
It's good. We should, say well done to him for that. But then, so he's taking the skeletons or whatever body parts and what's selling them to universities. I mean, in some ways, it's smart. I mean, it's morbid.
It's awful. What do you mean?
It's horrible. But as to build a whole building that traps people, to gas them, to then dump them into a cellar, to then dissect them, to then sell. That's quite impressive in a way.
You just keep harping on about how impressive this is. Maybe we should move on before our freaks of the show get really worried.
I mean, it is horrible. Don't get me wrong.
But it's great.
But it's impressive.
And again, Adam, the weird thing is no one's asking questions.
Which is weird. What, these people who are going missing, I don't understand. What is wrong with people in the 1900s?
Not even the people that he is selling these organs to or the medical models to.
Yeah, like, why? How do you find all these bodies?
Exactly. So the reason why they're not asking questions is because he's a medical doctor, right? It's commonplace at the time to rob graves and then sell these corpses to universities. So it's largely driven by the shortage of cadavers needed for study. And I'm sure people do have questions, but they knew better not to ask those questions, else risk cutting off that supply.
Isn't it weird to think that was the norm back then, that people were grave robbing? And that's why people turned a blind eye or accepted it?
At the same time, though, it's why we have the medical knowledge that we have today. Because of that, we have to also kind of morbidly respect the history that came before.
Yeah, that's true. Anything we know about the body has become from a morbid curiosity, right?
Exactly, yes. Of course, anything that he's unable to sell, he basically disposes of using lime to break down the bodies. He also has these 2 furnaces that are set up in the basement to just incinerate any of the bodies or any of the evidence.
Wow.
But he is also torturing them as well, because down there in the basement, he also has a stretching rack.
Oh, God.
He is unhinged, Adam. Now, in 1891, by the way, all of this is happening. The building is still being constructed.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild. In 1891, while the building's still being constructed, Ned Connor and his wife, Julia Smythe, they move into the building. Now, Ned works as a watchmaker selling jewelry, which is also where Julia works as well. Holmes strikes up an affair with Julia, and eventually Ned finds out. Of course, he's devastated, but he's also furious. He leaves Julia, and he also abandons their younger daughter, Pearl. A little while later, Julia tells Holmes that she's actually pregnant with his baby, and she demands that he marries her.
But he's not going to reveal that he's got 2 other wives?
No. Marta is still obviously in the picture, but she lives out in the suburbs, so she's not really on the scene. So we're not quite sure whether or not he is telling her the truth that he is connected to, that he has another wife. But technically, he's got 2 other wives. And so Holmes does the right thing, and he agrees.
He's a good, honourable man.
Yes. But he does tell her, though, that they can't actually have a child together because it wouldn't look good for his image as this respectable businessman.
Why? Oh, because he's marrying someone else and everyone knows that he's married.
Yes, exactly. So Holmes suggests that he carry out an abortion on her.
Oh.
Which she agrees to. And by some twisted logic, they plan it for Christmas Eve.
Ew.
It goes catastrophically wrong or exactly as planned, depending on how you look at it.
I feel like it's probably exactly as planned.
Julia dies as a result of an overdose from chloroform. Of course, he is now left with Pearl, which he can't explain away. And so Adam, he kills her too. When the tenants ask, where she is, he just tells them that Julia went to Iowa to attend a family wedding. Of course, she never comes back. And apparently no one ever asks any questions after that.
People just...
They're just so absorbed in their own lives.
But it feels like enough people have gone missing that people should be at least suspecting. But then I'm guessing, I don't know, new tenants move in and whatever.
Yeah. Or people's attention spans are just too short for the 1800s. Who knows?
Maybe.
After Christmas, though, just like he had done with some of these other victims, he hires a man named Charles Chappell to turn Julia into a skeleton model for just $20. Now, he finds Charles, believe it or not, through a newspaper advert that literally offers a service. It's called articulation or articulators. And again, no questions are asked. And it's because the demand for skeletons in medical schools means that people will often turn the other way. It's all business, and Holmes knows exactly how to exploit that. Now, according to the accounts, Charles comes to the hotel. Holmes introduces himself as Henry Gordon. He shows him Julia's body. And interestingly, for a reason I can't quite understand, Charles is only asked to articulate Julia's arms because Holmes is going to do the rest of the body himself. So Holmes detaches the arms, he puts them in a bag, and off Charles goes.
So why just the arms?
I get the impression that maybe Holmes wanted to get a good price for Julia's skeleton because she's 6 foot tall. So she's quite tall, especially for a woman of that period. So I think maybe he struggled with doing arms, and maybe he was confident doing the rest of the body, but he wanted a professional to do the arms so that when he took the skeleton to some kind of medical school, he could be like, look, it's a female who's 6 foot tall, and they'll pay him top dollar for it.
Right, okay. And I'm guessing it's all like the hands and the thumbs and everything like that.
I think so, yeah. Either way, it's gross how business-like this entire transaction is, right? They're literally discussing her like she's a piece of furniture.
Yeah.
Which is a bit morbid. But this isn't the only time he hires Charles. He actually calls on him 2 more times, once for a man and then another time for another woman that he's killed. Again, I'm assuming they're all employees. However, after the 3rd skeleton, Holmes actually refuses to pay Charles. He tells him basically that he's struggling financially, which may or may not be true. I know the construction of the hotel was really going off kilter. The deadline for the welfare was coming up, so maybe he was low on cash, I'm not sure. And because of this, Charles decides that he is going to keep the skeleton himself. And for years, it just sits in his living room, which of course becomes a vital piece of evidence once all of his crimes eventually come out in the future.
Okay, and so is he just keeping it in a box or something like that?
Yeah, he's hoping that maybe he's going to come to him with the money at some point, and then he would hand it over, but he's basically keeping it for ransom at this moment in time.
I see.
Now, a few years earlier, likely in Boston, Holmes actually meets a woman called Minnie Williams. At the time, she was an aspiring actress and also an heiress to a chunk of land in Texas. He introduces himself as Henry Gordon. They date for a while. Things don't really work out. They do, however, keep in touch by sending each other love letters every so often. Eventually, however, in early 1893, Minnie shows up in Chicago. They end up reconnecting, and Holmes offers her a job as a stenographer, which is basically a shorthand typist. And soon after that, their romantic relationship basically starts up again. Of course, she knows him as Henry Gordon. So she's confused when everyone starts calling him H.H. Holmes, around the business and stuff. So she's like, I thought your name was Gordon.
Yeah, how did he think he's going to get away with that?
Basically, he explains this away by saying that this is his way of keeping his romantic side quests separate from his respectable business persona. And Adam, to her, it completely makes sense. And also, if I'm honest, to me, it makes sense as well.
This guy is pulling the wool over so many people's eyes.
He must be extraordinarily good looking if he's able to manipulate these people and lure them in this way, right?
That, or just got a gift of the gab or everything. He must look just quite normal.
He does look quite normal. He's got a classic bowler hat on. He's got a big moustache. He looks quite young. He looks respectable. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's now shacked up with this other woman, whilst his other wife, who's just not really around, she must be quite happy just not having him around either, to stay away, right?
Yeah. And as time goes on, he takes an interest in her assets, specifically the land that she's inherited in Fort Worth in Texas. Now, she doesn't really know how to protect her assets at that point or what to even do. She's just inherited these assets and she's like, oh, I don't know what to do, but I'm really rich, sort of thing.
And I bet he's like, I can help with that.
Exactly.
Life insurance.
No. So basically what he does, he invents another alias called Alexander Bond as some kind of legal entity. He persuades her to sign over the bond to the property over to this Alexander guy. Basically, he convinces her that it's some kind of trust, like a lawyer or something, but really it's him. It doesn't exist. It's just him. She buys it. She agrees. She signs everything over. But the irony and the sloppiness of this alias isn't lost on me because basically he's got a guy called Alexander Bond to persuade her to sign over the bond to the property.
You're thinking about it. It's like, we need a bond. Alexander Bond.
I know, I've got the perfect name. But it sounds trustworthy, right? It's literally in the name.
So she knows that Alexander Bond is an alias and that what?
No, she thinks Alexander Bond is real.
Oh, I see. Well, his name's Bond. It must be legit.
Of course, the scam is wrapped up in obviously all the paperwork designed to benefit him exclusively, which eventually comes into effect when he proposes to her and they end up getting married. By the way, he's still married to Clara and he's still married to Marta.
That's a crime in itself.
It is a massive crime. I mean, he may have told Millie that they've divorced. It is possible, like he lied about being married at all. So I don't know if she knows the full situation of what he is in, but we know that Martha's living in the suburbs and we know that Clara's back home in New Hampshire.
Sure, and he's also probably going by a different name, so he can probably easily...
Oh, of course he's going by a different name, yes, exactly. so Clara Lovering is not going to know, yeah. But also Martha's not actively running the business anyway, like she's not really got anything to do with it. So the deception likely works well in his favor there because, like, yeah, she's not around.
I bet she's having an affair.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, everyone was doing it in the 1890s.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, after they get married, he suggests that Minnie invite her sister Annie to come and visit. When she arrives, he is incredibly welcoming. He shows her around the hotel. She is charmed by Holmes. But then one day, while Nanny is in the office, Holmes asks her to go into the vault to fetch a file.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, she goes inside. He locks her in, and then he feeds gas into the vault, and he murders her.
Damn.
Minnie also vanishes around about this time, conveniently. I think maybe he was trying to lure Nanny in because, of course, with Minnie out the way, it means that she then inherits the property. But with Nanny out the way as well, it goes to him. So later on, Holmes actually confesses to poisoning her in her sleep, but we can't really be sure of this because, as we'll find out later on, he contradicts himself so much in his story. Even when he eventually confesses, we just cannot place exactly what he's done, so we have to go by the evidence.
I was going to say, how do we know so much about this? But clearly...
Mostly through eyewitness testimony, but also the evidence that we're going to find inside the basements and also what Holmes tells us as well.
Right.
In other confessions, he says that he puts her body in a trunk and then dumps it into Lake Michigan. So there's different conflicting accounts. Eventually, construction of the castle is finally finished, and Holmes benefits from the massive influx of people that start visiting for the World Fair. But when the fair leaves the city, the castle is kind of struck by a strange series of unexplained fires and also unsuccessful insurance claims.
And are they all started by him?
Possibly. You would think so, wouldn't you? Of course, sensing fraud, insurers contact the police, which obviously draws the police's attention to Holmes. The police also then start to notice that there is a suspiciously high number of missing people that are associated with him in one way or another.
So did he cause those fires then, or is it just a kind of...
I think now that he's benefited from the World's Fair, he maybe wants to cash in on the insurance and maybe just be done at the hotel. I'm not sure.
Sure, I can understand that, but I almost feel like you can't do it too often. Like, he's going to draw too much attention to himself.
Yes, the police are now sniffing around. So, Adam, the question is, what is a serial killer to do at this point?
Do some more killing?
No, he leaves Chicago.
Oh, okay.
He actually makes a beeline for Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay, so he does a runner.
And as we know in Fort Worth, Texas, he now owns a lovely bit of soil in the form of Minnie's property.
Oh, yeah, of course. Poor Minnie.
It's the perfect location for him to set up and start again with a brand new murder castle. So I reckon that was the plan all along. He was going to burn down the murder castle because I guess it gets rid of all the evidence that's in there, right?
Well, yeah, there's gas chambers.
So he goes to Fort Worth and he starts constructing a new property. He has dug the foundations at this point. He is also in the process of buying all the materials when all of a sudden the cops come sniffing around, looking into some very dodgy insurance claims from Chicago. So basically it all catches up with him very, very fast.
Okay. So did he manage to get rid of the other castle than the building? Because I'm just thinking there's so much evidence there.
Nope, it's still there.
Ah.
He still has it, yeah, and it's still being run. So he's still getting all the rent from the shop owners and the people who are renting the apartments. Maybe he's got a manager in there, I'm not sure.
I see, okay.
And so, Adam, he has to make a run for it again, but not before stealing some horses. So now he's got insurers looking for him and the cops are looking for these horses as well. So he skips to a few different places, but to his dismay, when he gets to those places, the cops come sniffing around again. So they're constantly chasing him around from city to city. Eventually, he gets to Denver, Colorado in January of 1894 and assumes a new alias, Henry Mansfield Howard, and quickly meets and marries a respectable daughter of a religious family, Georgiana Yolk.
And are they rich?
They are very rich. But also, dude, you're on the run. Do you really have time for this?
There's always time for a wife.
there's always time for love and murder, I guess.
And so these horses he stole, was he like galloping?
I don't know. I don't know what capacity he stole the horses. I guess he just needed transportation, and maybe he didn't want to rely on maybe trains and things like that to get to these big cities. I guess maybe the most efficient way to do it is by horse.
Yeah.
But he's stolen these horses basically, and that's what they're looking for.
Gotcha.
So soon after this, they flee to St. Louis, and in July 1894, he is finally busted for stealing the horses. Of course, Georgiana's family, they have money, and so they manage to bail him out. But while he's waiting for the paperwork and the money to be sorted, he ends up striking up a conversation with a convicted train robber named Marion Hedgeworth. Because Marion is a bad guy, Holmes figures he might know some dodgy contacts that will help him pull off his next scheme. Because right now, he needs money. He needs money, A, to pay back the Georgiana's family for the bail that he's got, but he also needs money to get the hell out of Dodge. What he wants specifically is Marion to put him into contact with a dodgy lawyer, someone who will basically help facilitate a $10,000 life insurance policy that he's going to take out on himself.
So he's going to try and fake his own death?
He's going to fake his own death. And basically he offers Marion $500 in commission for setting up that initial meeting. Mm-hmm. Marion agrees. It's a guy called Jephthah Howe, and Jephthah is all in. Unfortunately, the plan fails when the insurance company becomes suspicious and they refuse the payouts altogether.
Is that because of his name?
It's not because of his name, no. It's basically because the policy was taken out yesterday and the guy died today.
That's why you have to wait at least 2 weeks.
Exactly. So they're going to try again, but they're going to plan it better. This time, they'll wait the required time before putting in the claim.
Told you.
But of course, they can't now fake his death again because he's already dead, right?
Mm-hmm.
So instead, they rope in his old mate, Benjamin Pitzel.
He was the carpenter?
Yes, he was. He's his dodgy carpenter friend. So Pitzel agrees to fake his own death. Basically, he's going to go to Philadelphia, where they're going to stage the whole death. And then he's going to go into hiding. Holmes and Pitzel's wife will then go off to claim the money. And then from there, they'll split the money between the three of them, including the lawyer.
And so does Pitzel's wife know about this? Is
she knows. She's all in.
Okay.
So Pitzel sets himself up as an inventor in Pennsylvania under the name of E.F. Perry. He's basically going to stage a lab explosion where he ends up getting killed and horrifically disfigured in the process. Holmes's part in all of this is that he is going to source a body that will play the role of Pitzel. But instead of finding a body, Holmes decides, I'm just going to kill Pitzel.
Oh, God. I mean, yeah, that's one way.
He knocks him unconscious using chloroform, and then he basically sets his body on fire. He then links up with Pitzel's wife, right? He tells her everything went according to plan. Pitzel is, of course, lying low until they can get the money, and then they're, of course, going to make a run for it. She has no idea that he's actually dead. And so when the required amount of time goes by, they then go off together and they claim the money. By the way, I have no idea where Georgiana is during any of this. She may as well be dead. I have no idea.
Oh, yeah. Was he not married?
He got married.
He does like to marry a wife, then leave her. And also, what name is he going by now? Because he's technically dead. But who's actually dead? Which of his aliases is dead?
Oh, God. It might be Henry Gordon who's dead.
That's what I was thinking. Is it that one? This is just...
It's messy, isn't it?
Every day, the world gets a little weirder and a lot more awesome. Cool Stuff Daily takes a look at everything from mining in space to the latest in the fight against cancer to how AI is, well, basically changing everything. It's all the cool stuff you didn't know you needed to know. Join us for Cool Stuff Daily as we take a quick look at science, tech, and the wait, what stories that make you sound way smarter at dinner. Subscribe to Cool Stuff Daily now because the future's happening fast and it's way too fun to miss.
Anyway, they go to collect the money, they get the money. And Holmes says, okay, we now need to get to safety and link up with your husband Pitzel, right? But we can't travel together, but I also cannot travel alone. You have 5 kids, Mrs. Pitzel, and so how about you sign over custody of 3 of them to me? I'll take Alice, Nellie, and Howard. That way, if I'm stopped on my way up to Canada where we're going to meet, it will look like I'm a respectable father or a businessman.
Wow, that's... And she's just going to be like, yeah, sure, I'll sign away 3 kids.
Mm-hmm. He tells her, you keep the elder son for protection. Obviously, you take the baby because he needs his mother. And we'll then make our way along different routes up towards London in Canada.
Okay.
That is basically where they're going to reunite with Pitzel. Pitzel's dead. So eventually both of them get to Detroit. They are just about to cross the border into Canada and make their way to London, right? They still are separate though. They're staying literally just blocks away from each other when Holmes is arrested by the Pinkerton National Detective Agency.
Okay.
Does that ring a bell for you?
Is that like a private detective agency?
It is, yeah. They're this famous private security and detective agency that was like established by Alan Pinkerton in 1850 or something. They rose to fame after foiling a plot to assassinate President-elect Abraham Lincoln. And as a result, when Lincoln became president, he hired the agency as his personal security agency during the Civil War. So a lot of history going on there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he gets busted by them. And it turns out they've been trailing him for months, ever since he made the rookie mistake of failing to pay Marion Hedgepeth.
Oh, yeah, that's the one he put his confidence in.
Yeah.
And he screwed over. So Marion basically said, go after this guy.
Yep.
1, he owes me money, and 2, he's a crook at the end of the day.
That's right, yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah. So basically, the Pinkerton Detective Agency, they start digging into the allegations. And once they do, a whole pattern begins to emerge. All the dodgy fires, the suspicious kind of disappearance, all of it. None of it, of course, is definitive, not yet at this moment in time. But they do have the outstanding warrant out of Texas and the fact that he skipped bail. And that's enough to basically keep him in custody.
So it must have been quite wild for them to, as they're trying to track him down, find out all about him, and then go, oh, wait a minute, there's these suspicious fires.
Yes.
Then these missing people.
Mm-hmm. But they don't know about the circumstances behind the missing people just yet.
I guess it's just like, this is a really odd character. There's more going on with this story.
That's right. And so in July 1895, they arrest him. At first, he puts up this kind of tough guy attitude, like all bluster, all bravado, but he completely freaks out when pretty quickly they threaten to send him back to a Texas jail. And then he's like, please don't send me back to Texas, describing the punishment there as rough and ready, which basically means he doesn't want to become someone's bitch. Maybe Texans like...
Wow, is it? Yeah, I didn't realize prisons there were so bad.
I don't know, but he's freaked out by the idea of going back to Texas.
I feel like he's quite posh. Imagine if he was British, he'd be going pip pip.
Yeah, he is a doctor.
That's true.
Yeah, but he doesn't come from a very posh family, though, like an elite family.
No, and he's not a nice man.
No, he's not. And so, out of fear of being someone's prison plaything, he confesses to the insurance scams. But he does deny murdering Pitzel. Instead, he spins a story about how he managed to get a body from a doctor in New York who then shipped it over to Philadelphia for him to then use as part of the scam. But this is where the Pinkerton Detective Agency really earns their reputation. One of the inspectors remembers that when they first examined Pitzel's body, it was in full rigor mortis, suggesting that whoever the body was must have died within a 24-hour period, right? If the body had been shipped all the way from New York, that takes days and days and days. And by that time, all the muscles in the body would have then relaxed and it would no longer have rigor mortis.
Yeah, so if he was a good doctor, he would have known that.
Mm-hmm. So they quiz Holmes on the process that he supposedly used to stiffen the body to make it look fresh. And of course, Holmes doesn't have an answer for that, and so he crumbles. Basically, the gig is up and he is busted.
I guess if he had lied better and said that he got the body, I don't know, from down the road or something, not far,
Like if he found the body locally, then he might have been done for not reporting the fact that he's found a body. Whereas if he uses the excuse that he got the body from a doctor in New York, he could at least say, well, it was a donated body.
I get that, but now he can't obviously prove it. And yeah, he's
basically they don't believe him now.
Yeah.
So he's been busted for the insurance scams and also murdering Pitzel. And so the police, they launch a full-on investigation. They begin interviewing all his former employees back in Chicago. Many of these women would simply just vanish without explanation and never to be seen again. They also uncover the life insurance policies that Holmes claimed were kind of employee perks. Cleaners, they also start reporting that the second and third floor of the castle were strictly off limits to them. And so all of this is enough to rouse serious suspicion that something dodgy was going on in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And so over the next month, investigators begin uncovering the building itself. And it turns out it's an absolute labyrinth, as we already know. Room after room, feature after feature, each more macabre than the last. They find all the hinged walls. They find all the false partitions. They find doors that open up onto just solid brick. They find trapdoors in rooms. They obviously find all the gas jets installed specifically to asphyxiate people. But they also find the makeshift silent alarm system that's wired directly into his apartment. They're like, why do you need a silent alarm?
Yeah, like finding all this, like what is this place? And the thing is, a lot of the tenants and people that work there probably wouldn't have known this was there. The thought that you're working in a building where people are being tortured.
Literally and murdered, yeah, crazy. Of course, in the basement, they find his operating table and all his surgical instruments. All of it is blood-stained. Isn't he meant to be a doctor?
Yeah, clean.
Yeah. They find the crematory ovens along with acid vats and quicklime pits that he used to destroy the bodies. They do find remains in them, but they're almost entirely like turned to dust. It makes it impossible to identify whether or not the remains were even human. Mm-hmm. So you could argue, Adam, that much of this was just circumstantial evidence, right?
But surely there's blood on the knives.
Yeah, but could it be animal blood? There's no DNA testing back then, right? So what they need is to uncover some physical evidence. And they find that very, very quickly because they do end up finding a very, very clearly human bone fragment that belonged to a small child, which they assume belonged to Pearl Connor. They also find a piece of bone that likely belonged to Julia Connor herself. That's obviously Pearl's mother, on account of it obviously being found alongside the bone of the child that they found. They also find women's hair in the chimney. Mm-hmm. They find clothing, including jewelry, that belonged to Minnie Williams, which they were able to verify through a jeweler she had purchased it from before she disappeared. So that's, to them, that's quite concrete.
Yeah.
Other macabre evidence that they find includes, Adam, scratch marks that appear to have been made by people desperately trying to escape from the rooms that they've been trapped in.
Oh my God.
One of the most disturbing details is found in the basement. They discover a fully distinguishable bare footprint, clearly female, on top of one of the lime pits, which means that they clearly knew that they were about to face death.
Like, it is unreal. Like, to even come up with this kind of building, this torture building, like, this guy is just so twisted.
It's pretty fucked. So while they're excavating, 3 people discover a tunnel that led from the basement out onto the street. They decide to follow it, and it ends up in what looks like a dead end. At the end of the tunnel, they strike a match to get a better look to see if it's a false wall. And they're right, because behind it is a massive, massive oil tank. And the fumes that are coming off it cause the tunnel in that moment to explode as that match is lit. And even though Holmes provides various confessions all contradicting each other, he never, ever explains what the oil tank was used for or why it was there.
So the people that were investigating, they all died?
They didn't die, actually, but several people were injured. So it caused a massive, kind of gas explosion.
So they found it. He never explained it. So I guess they had no evidence because it was all set alight.
Yeah, that's right.
Jeez.
So Holmes is now sitting in jail. All the pieces are coming together because, of course, they've now found all this macabre shit. But while the castle was being investigated, there was one other pressing issue that they had to deal with. When word reaches Mrs. Pritzel that Holmes has been arrested, she makes a desperate dash to collect her 3 children, Alice, Nellie, and Howard. When she gets there, the police are like, yeah, when we arrested him, he wasn't with any kids.
Oh, God.
So the Pinkerton Detective Agency, they initiate literally a nationwide manhunt to try and find them. And while all of this is happening, this story obviously explodes in the media. This is how it gets pretty much nationwide. Everyone is fascinated by what the police are uncovering, obviously at the murder castle. And also now everyone is standing on tenterhooks trying to work out, wondering where these kids are. But sadly, it doesn't take them long before the police find their remains. They find Howard, age 11. He was suffocated in a trunk and dumped in a reservoir somewhere. His 2 sisters, Alice, 15, and Nellie, 12, they were both strangled, stuffed into a trunk, and then buried under a lime pit in a basement of a house that Holmes had been renting in Indianapolis. The landlady basically confirms that she rented him the property. So that's how it was linked to him.
God.
It's awful. It's really awful what he does to them. 3 months later, in October 1895, Holmes is then put on trial for the murder of Benjamin Pritzel. He is found guilty, and he found guilty of the murders of Pritzel's children as well. So that's good. At least they got justice. But once that guilty verdict comes down and he's sentenced to death, that is when all of the confessions start coming out, right?
Really?
And it is incredibly difficult to know how truthful any of them are. A lot of people think he underplays the number of people that he killed. Like, he admits to killing 30 people, but then some of the people he claims to have killed are still very much alive and well. A bit like Elizabeth Holton, who they find living in one of the neighboring neighborhoods.
Yeah, like, what's his MO for exaggerating the number of people he killed, unless he's I'm just going to use this to become famous? But it didn't seem like he was doing it for fame.
It could also be that he's killed so many.
That he's just forgot.
He's forgotten.
That's worse.
So he is sentenced to death by hanging. But the public, of course, remember at this moment in time, they don't want him to go to the gallows because they still want to really know what happened. And so the public are desperate to know. Eventually, a newspaper offers him $7,500 in exchange for a truthful confession. Adam, that's an incredible sum. This is how desperate the public want answers, because it's the equivalent of $215,000 today.
I mean, that's a lot. But even if they offer that, who's that going to? To him or to the...
Probably to his ancestors. He's still got a son out there.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Yeah, wherever Robert is.
What a great dad.
By the way, the newspaper that offers the money is owned by a guy called William Randolph Hearst, who is Paddy Hearst's grandfather.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Anyway, Holmes gives a new confession. It's literally a 10,000 word. I've written down here, a 10,000 page ramble. No, it's a 10,000 word ramble, basically, where he admits to killing 27 people. So I guess like people have gone, yeah, but you said blah, 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 and you said me, and this person's still alive. And he's just like, okay, yeah, it's 27 people.
Round up.
Yeah. And even then, newspapers are awful. Like, they end up serializing the 10,000 word letter to kind of boost their newspaper sales. It's gross.
So what you're saying is the press have always been, a bit of a piece of shit.
Bit of shitbags, yeah. But even in the confession, he contradicts himself constantly about things that are easily verifiable, which makes it really difficult to know, like I said, what the truth actually is. He is just a habitual liar. And although he admits to some of the murders, he also does at times also claim that he's completely innocent. So like, he'll admit to the murders, but then he'll say, but I'm also innocent. But the reason why he says that he's innocent is because he says that he was possessed by Satan. And then in the letter, he'll talk at length about how while he's in prison, he starts to notice that his appearance started to morph, taking on like a satanic cast. He even says that Satan was emerging out from within him.
So is he just because he's confined, or is he just gone a bit crazy?
Could be a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B, but also this is what he says, right? He says, I was born with a devil in me. I could not help the fact that I was a murderer. So maybe he's got like this impulse that he just cannot control. And the only way for him to explain it is by him saying, it's because I've got the devil in me.
I see.
I understand how that would be a rational explanation when you're a Methodist and you live in that time.
Yeah.
He says, no more than a poet can help the inspiration to sing. I was born with the evil one standing as my sponsor beside my bed when I was ushered into the world. And he has been with me ever since.
I see. So yeah, he is saying like he was born with it. Like we found out that he's dissecting cats. Yeah, I guess he's admitting that that's part of him.
He is eventually executed by hanging on the 7th of May, 1896 in Philadelphia County Prison. And what a piece of shit. He requests that his coffin be encased in cement and buried 10 feet deep because he was terrified by the notion of someone stealing his body and using it for dissection. What a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, you don't get any requests.
Exactly. But also this proves that he knows exactly how messed up what he's been doing is. Because suddenly he's like, no, don't do anything weird to my body, you. Yuck, gross.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Apparently, though, when the trapdoor opens on the gallows, his neck doesn't snap. And so he ends up twitching there for 15 minutes before he is eventually pronounced dead. And do you know what? That's well deserved, I say. I'm glad he suffered.
Do you think that's done on purpose? Because sometimes depending on how high you fall, right?
Do you think they did that to try and torture him?
Sometimes, because I feel like this guy is not a nice man. Would someone have done that?
Possibly. Yeah, maybe make the rope a bit shorter.
Mm.
But also, get this, for years, people believe that the murder castle's caretaker, a guy called Pat Quinlan, must have known what was happening in the castle this entire time. He's a fucking caretaker. Do you know what I mean? And over the years, newspapers have offered him all sorts of money to tell them what he knew. But Adam, he never does. But on the 7th of March, 1914, almost 20 years later, Pat ends up committing suicide. And next to his body, they find a note that simply read, I couldn't sleep anymore. So either this is an admission that he was Holmes's accomplice, or that he was potentially ravished by guilt for turning a blind eye.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. To me, that's someone who knew at some point.
Sure. The murder castle, of course, no longer there today. It has since been demolished. But in August 1895, just after Holmes's crimes came to light, 2 men were seen entering the back of the castle between 8 and 9 p.m. And half an hour later, they were seen running away, followed by several explosions. And there are 2 possible explanations for that. Either they wanted to destroy the building so it didn't become like a macabre tourist landmark, or they were somehow involved, which was the popular opinion of the time.
So that they, get rid of the evidence.
Get rid of the evidence, yeah.
Do you think they might have been the people that built it?
What, the construction people?
Mm.
I mean, it was a whole team of different people. So I
Yeah.
don't think any one person knew the extent. But maybe with the money that he got from the newspapers, he paid someone to go and destroy the evidence, because this was while he was obviously still on trial.
I see.
Of course, over the years, this story has really fascinated people all over the world and has become something of a legend. Like we said at the beginning of the show, the 5th season of American Horror Story takes place in a hotel inspired by this story, with the character James Marsh being modeled after Holmes, apparently. There's also a theory, as we mentioned again at the top of the show, that Holmes may have been Jack the Ripper. And the theory was popularized by his great-great-grandson, Jeff Mudgett. And the theory hinges on the idea that when Holmes first fled Chicago after the murders, he apparently went to London for a bit, which aligns with the timeline of the Ripper murders and might explain why they stopped all of a sudden, because he ended up going back to Chicago.
Interesting. But then it seems like those deaths, they weren't like dissected in that sort of way.
But maybe when you are living out of a suitcase, you do things differently.
You have to adapt with, roll with the punches.
Yeah, but there are no travel records to support that idea. But at the same time, we do know that he had a propensity to move around under different aliases.
That's true.
There's also, of course, The Devil in the White City, which is a book by Eric Larson released in 2003, which recounts basically the story of Holmes, which is where a lot of the podcasts get their sources from. But over the years, a bunch of people have proposed adapting that book into a film. And the first person to propose it is Martin Scorsese.
Really?
Yeah, he wants Leonardo DiCaprio to star as H.H. Holmes.
Like, has this been a film? I feel like it should have been by now.
Well, I mean, they've come pretty close. It has been shelved. Hulu did pick it up as a TV series starring Keanu Reeves. I don't know as H.H. Holmes or maybe someone else. But again, that's also fallen through. But they are still trying to make it happen. Scorsese is reportedly working on trying to finalize the script. And so there is hope that maybe by the end of 2026, they might have made some progress in deciding what is going to be a TV show or whether or not it's going to be an actual film. If Martin Scorsese is involved, it's probably going to be a film.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think it's weird how we're like, oh, that makes such a great movie. But actually, a bunch of people died. This is horrific.
Now, listen, on that real quick. I get it. Lots of people died. This also happened a long time ago. So I think when it comes to sensitivity, it almost exists on a scale. It's always appropriate to be sensitive when people lose their lives. But this is also a really historic thing, right? It's the first American serial killer. And I think so many of the details over the years have been lost. We can't guarantee all of the facts in the story. So I think what you tend to find is that it's been embellished enough over the years for us to look at this as a bit of entertainment. I don't know, is that the right thing to say? Are people going to cancel me?
I think I hear what you're saying. Like, it's quite far removed in terms of ancestors and things like that.
Yes. And don't get me wrong, I honestly don't believe that he built the murder castle for the specific purpose of killing people. I think he built the murder castle as a business. And then he built in features that allowed him to carry out his hobbies.
He's an entrepreneur.
But he's also a killer.
Yeah.
So I think, did he build the castle for the sole purpose of murdering people? No. Did he build the castle for the sole purpose of doing business? Yes. And as it was being constructed, he was like, it'd be really nice if I had a trapdoor so I can kill people occasionally.
Well, yeah, if he said that he's always had like the devil in him, then he's let me mix my hobby and my business together. Yeah. Weird man. But I had no idea that was...
Hey, I haven't said the end bit yet.
Oh.
And Adam, that is the story of H.H. Holmes.
I had no idea. I had no idea. Yeah, generally, that was not what I was expecting.
Wasn't what I was expecting either, if I'm honest. I didn't really know the story. I knew of, but I didn't know the story.
I thought he was just like a regular serial killer, not this man on the run. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well told.
Anyway, should we do a couple of shout-outs?
Let's do it.
Guys, as you know, HR have been hard at work assigning the idea roles to our certified freaks and our top tier members.
But the only problem is, while we know your job title, we don't actually know what your job actually entails.
So when you hear your name, take note of your job title and then use the link in the show notes to submit your official job description to HR.
They want to know what your duties involve, who you report to, and any major incidents that have happened under your watch.
They also want to know how you are, of course, tracking against your KPIs, if you have any. And, of course, when you submit those, we'll read some of the best ones on a future episode. This week, we'd like to extend a very big welcome to Amy Campbell, our popcorn machine whisperer.
Natalie, our boom whip recoil instant documentation specialist.
That's just a bunch of words. Say it again. Our boom whip recoil instant documentation specialist.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I'm sure Natalie is going to work that one out.
Yeah.
We have Sam Gosling, our fire eater temperature variance filing officer.
Tracy Reese, our cotton candy density estimation trainee.
This can is too thick. We have Melina Cameron, our deputy coordinator for conflicting drum tempo signals.
Conflicting. And finally, we have Shara Lee Fries, our acting supervisor of conflicting ring announcements. Whatever that means.
Welcome to the compendium, guys. And this week's job description is actually from Jessica Sue, our foghorn synchronized blast timing technician. Adam, do you want to read this one out?
Yeah, so Jessica Sue says, being the foghorn synchronized blast timing technician is a very tough role in the compendium. Our last one went deaf. Silly workplace incident. Her main role is to adjust horn pressure based on tent acoustics, humidity, and clown density. This ensures blasts are loud enough to startle, but not so loud that the lion files a conformal complaint. There are twats that are like that. She also says that she has to report to the monkeys and lions as they make the foghorn schedules. They are very strict. They crack the whip. She says they have had a few small incidents. Once she accidentally left the foghorn on too loud and a tightrope walker was blasted right out of the tent. He was okay after surgery, which was fine, though he will never walk the tightrope again.
No, you'll never work in this city again.
Yeah, but she's been assured he will be assigned a better suited role.
Oh, in the kitchen.
Thanks, good that we try and keep our staff. And Jessica believes she consistently delivers high-impact honks under pressure, demonstrated exceptional judgment in moments of escalating nonsense, and room to grow in restraint. And she's hoping to be promoted to Chief Honk Engineer, Director of Unexpected Noises, or casually known as the Emergency Consultant. And like Monica Geller, She says she wears an unattached headset that makes her look like she knows what she's doing.
Oh yes, you definitely need one of them, right? It's how you know you're important. But yes, well done.
That is a brilliant job description.
This is what we expect, bitches.
She's thought about this. It's not just ChatGPT. Right then, should we run the outro for this week?
Let's do it. And that brings us to the end of a fascinating foray into the compendium, an assembly of fascinating things. We hope you enjoyed the ride as much as we did.
And if today's episode has sparked your curiosity, then please do us a favor and follow us on your favorite podcast app. It truly makes a world of difference and helps more people discover the show.
And for our dedicated freaks out there, don't forget that next week's episode is already waiting for you on our Patreon. And as always, it's completely free to access.
And if you want even more, then join our Certified Freaks tier to unlock the entire archive. You get to delve into exclusive content and get a sneak peek at what's coming next.
We drop new episodes every Tuesday, and until then, remember, the walls of history hold both truth and legend. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Every day, the world gets a little weirder and a lot more awesome. Cool Stuff Daily takes a look at everything from mining in space to the latest in the fight against cancer to how AI is, well, basically changing everything. It's all the cool stuff you didn't know you needed to know. Join us for Cool Stuff Daily as we take a quick look at science, tech, and the wait, what stories that make you sound way smarter at dinner. Subscribe to Cool Stuff Daily now, because the future's happening fast, and it's way too fun to miss.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.